This is the hottest place on Earth. It's also the driest place in all of North America. The weather here can be brutal and unpredictable, as we found out in 2022 when we were forced to abandon camp and flee from a monster sandstorm. Even the name of this place inspires fear: Death Valley. And yet, contained within the boundaries of the largest national park in the contiguous United States are places that seem totally at odds with Death Valley's harsh, lifeless reputation. And it's these areas we plan on spending the next handful of days exploring. An unexpected pine forest situated at over 7,000 feet in elevation. A rocky monolith overlooking a mysterious dry lake bed. And dense Joshua tree forests. Getting there won't be easy, as it requires venturing into some of the most remote areas of the park, where shelf roads, steep drops, and rocky, unmaintained trails await. All right, well, we have made it to Death Valley. We're about to enter the park, and we're over on the Panamint Springs side on the west end of the national park. This is the part of the trip that we've been looking forward to probably the most over the past couple months as we've been planning, and here it is. Today we're gonna start hitting some trails in Death Valley and exploring some parts of the park that we have been wanting to check out for a very long time and haven't had a chance to do yet. So it's gonna be a fun couple days. It is pretty impressive how quickly we're gaining elevation. That's one of the things about Death Valley that I never realized until we started coming here, is the elevation swings, because obviously you have the lowest point in America, I don't know, 200 feet below sea level or something like that. And then now we're up here at probably 4,000 or 5,000 feet. I think we're supposed to get up to potentially 8,000 or 9,000 feet today with the trail that we're gonna be on, which is just wild in the span of like probably a mile or two as the crow flies. You go from like 0 feet to 8,000 feet, which means the landscape is super dramatic. So this is our last stop before we hit the trail. Let's go.
The crew just got off of pavement. We're about to hit the trail. We're going to go from Hunter Mountain to Racetrack Playa. We have no idea what is in store for us and what this trail has to offer, but let's see what we get into.
Like Christine said, we really didn't know what was in store for us. When we'd asked about trail conditions at the gas station, we were given wildly conflicting intel. One clerk telling us we'd need a lifted Jeep on 40s, while the other said they'd done it in their Subaru the year prior. So we just have to see for ourselves. Before long though, a point of interest on the map caught our attention, so we broke off the main trail to go check it out. This is the Boxcar Cabin, and Connolly and Michelle had been here before, and they suggested we should stop because it was literally right on our route. And it's kind of one of those just little funky cabins that it's stocked with stuff. You could spend a night in there, make a fire, pretty well equipped, honestly, and kind of weird, just like you'd expect from something like this in the desert. We're about to head back into the national park in just a couple of miles, and that's when the real fun should begin. Before long, we re-entered the national park, and as we began to climb, a rather impressive Joshua tree forest emerged, seemingly thriving at the higher altitude. As we continued further up the mountain, the Joshua trees were replaced by a rather unexpected sight: a pine forest. We really scored on this campsite. This is amazing and incredibly unexpected. We're in the middle of Death Valley National Park right now, and I don't think for anyone that this is what they think of when they think of Death Valley. We're at almost 7,000 feet right now, and the landscape is as far away from the barren desert as you can get. I mean, look at this, grass and trees, and there are still some cactus around as well. So there's a little bit of everything up here. And another bonus is that it is substantially cooler. It's probably about 70 degrees. It's supposed to get down to 49 degrees tonight. We checked the weather forecast on the Garmin. So this will be our coolest night, but after a handful of days in the desert, that is a welcome thing. And I'm feeling the elevation right now as I walk around. We climbed very, very quickly, but it's just another reason why I love Death Valley so much, is that you have such a variety of terrain. I mean, just look at this. There's birds, the wind in the trees. It's very peaceful. And so far anyway, the road to get up here, which we had been told was very rough and very difficult by a couple of different people, seems to have been recently graded, at least this part of it. So far, it's been very pretty, very scenic, and I'm just looking forward to spending a night up in these mountains, in these trees, and cooling off a little bit. She duct taped like half the thing closed. And I was just like, and there was just like feathers like separate.
On every trip, the adventure crew always does double-decker Taco Supreme night at camp. And tonight is that night. So, made my taco. Let's see how it tastes. So good!
I just love being the first one up at camp and walking around and exploring. And this spot is just, I don't know really how else to describe it other than peaceful. This is maybe one of the more peaceful campsites that I've been at in a while. I think it's a combination of the birds and the wind and the trees, and especially just after being in the desert for the last week, the change in scenery is amazing. And I was also thinking it's kind of funny because the last time we were in Death Valley, we had the coldest camp night of any night on our Southern California trip. And last night was the coldest camp night of our trip so far. And it's in Death Valley. So apparently, if you want to escape the heat and get some very chilly weather, come and camp in Death Valley. Of course, the caveat there is we're not actually in the valley. We're up on a mountain at almost 7,000 feet. But still, I think that's kind of a funny thing. And today, we've got a big day today. We've got numerous points of interest that we've been excited for a long time that we're going to check out today. But first, we got to get off this mountain. And we've got about a 4,000 foot descent coming in a very short period of time. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but hopefully not too bad to get us down to the valley floor below. And then we've got Lippincott Pass, which will be something we'll do this afternoon, which I've been excited for a long time, which is kind of a notorious rough and rocky and difficult shelf road, and then just find another spot to camp in the park. It's going to be a great day. Our morning summarized in just a few seconds. Descended the mountain and the views were great, although a camera very nearly met its fate. Could it be more Joshua trees? It looked as if Dr. Seuss had penned this land by hand. We then encountered the world's finest sand. Thankfully though, we were in the lead. Probably didn't help the others that we hit it with speed. Finally, we arrived at our first stop. Being a YouTuber, I demanded that all the trucks were aligned, and Christine was excited as she had bought in a shop something to leave behind.
This is a place that I have been waiting to check out since the very first time we were in Death Valley several years ago, and that is Kettle Junction. On our first day here, I ended up getting a tea kettle, and over the course of the trip, we have been drawing all over this thing so that we can leave it behind here at Kettle Junction.
Gotta give it away, give it away, give it away to the ones you love.
We are walking on the racetrack out to this here. We're gonna check that out.
We're at Racetrack Playa. Finally, after 3 years and a failed attempt to get here, we have made it, and it has surpassed all of my expectations. It is beautiful here, and this rock formation, these rocks in the middle, to be able to climb up them and get this vantage point, which is where I am now. I just scrambled to the top. What a view, and it's just such a stark contrast to the mountains that are all around this playa. How cool would this have looked filled with water? And then of course there's the story of why it's called Racetrack Playa, which might be the most interesting part about this place. This is Racetrack Playa, a dried up lake bed, and this is the rock formation known as the Grandstand, where I am currently. There are a few interesting things about this place. One, it's exceptionally flat. One of the flattest surfaces on Earth, in fact, with the northern end of the playa being just 1.5 inches higher than the southern end. But why the name, Racetrack? The answer turns out to be one of Death Valley's most enduring mysteries, and it all has to do with rocks that occasionally tumble from the surrounding mountains and land on the playa. And once they do, these rocks, some weighing up to 700 pounds, begin to move on their own, forming strange tracks on the playa. And for nearly 80 years, no one had been able to answer the question of how or why this happens. But in 2014, the rocks were observed moving for the first time. For this to happen required a rare combination of events. First, the playa must fill with just the right amount of water. That water must then turn into ice during a cold winter night. Then the sun must heat the ice enough to break it up into large floating panels, which light winds can then drive across the playa pool. The ice sheets push the rocks in front of them, and the moving stones leave trails in the soft mud below the pool surface. Just a few miles south of the racetrack, we arrived at the beginning of one of Death Valley's most notorious trails, Lippincott Pass. This is my favorite kind of road. I freaking love roads like this. The views, the shelves. I'm a weirdo.
All right, Connolly, I know you're not typically a fan of shelf roads, so I would love to know what you thought of Lippincott Pass.
I just looked 5 feet in front of my tires and did not look down.
Were you scared at all?
I was scared. I'm scared of heights, so I'm scared of looking down this steep ridge. Lucky enough, the steepest parts, I was closest to the mountain, so I think the passenger was closer to the edge than I was. You just drive slow and we're done.
You did great.
Thank you.
With the day wearing on, we decided it was time to find camp. So we pointed the trucks west and soon found ourselves in a surprisingly green canyon with some unexpected traffic.
Come on, move. There you go, fly away. Oh, shit. I mean, I would too.
Then through another Dr. Seuss forest and eventually just outside the park boundary, where we found a quiet spot to call home for the night. Well, we just made camp west of Death Valley. We're actually in BLM land right now. We exited the park and just found this little area that is beautiful. It's kind of a transition zone where there's Joshua trees and then the Joshua trees fade away and it's higher elevation stuff, but it's beautiful and it should be a little bit cooler here, which we all agree we preferred versus some of the hotter nights we've had in the desert. And I've got to say, the west side of Death Valley is one of my favorite places that I've explored, and today was really an exceptionally great day, hitting Racetrack Playa, hitting Kettle Junction, and Lippincott Pass. Lippincott Pass, I'm a sucker for a good shelf road. I'm weird like that, and Lippincott Pass was a proper shelf road experience. And so, yeah, days on the trail don't get much better than this. But looking forward to relaxing tonight. Really feel like we maximized our time in Death Valley, but we've still got some more exploring to do on this trip, so yeah, it's not over yet. Just gonna relax, hang out together as a group. This is the last night that we're all going to be together because Corey's got to split off tomorrow, but we do have a fun trail that we're gonna explore tomorrow, so it's not the end of the trip, but I think we're just gonna shut the camera off and enjoy this scenery and enjoy the rest of the evening together.